Now we're going to talk about sick day rules and the use of glucagon. You don't ever have to go back to the hospital if you have diabetes, but you may get sick, like a cold or a flu or a virus or something like that, and it's really important that you know what to do to stay out of the hospital and to stay on your game. Great. Now we're going to be talking about sick day rules and use of glucagon. Now remember, I said to you at the beginning that having diabetes doesn't mean that you'll be more sickly than any of your peers or colleagues who don't have diabetes. But what I did say was that when you do get sick, it does throw your diabetes out of whack. And the reason it does that is because your body perceives getting sick as a stress. And when you're under stress, your body produces hormones called cortisols. And cortisols make you resistant to insulin. And if you're resistant, it means you need more insulin to get the same bang for your buck in terms of bringing sugars down. So, let's say that you wake up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. to say you have a 102 fever, you got a headache, and you're feeling sick. My question to you is, what's the first thing that you do? Well, I would say the first thing that you do if you have diabetes is you check your blood sugar. All right, check your blood sugar, and you see that your blood sugar is 15.6 or 280. And you go, holy jamoli, how'd that happen? Well, remember, we said if you're sick, your blood sugar is going to go up. And what that means is you might have to take more insulin, even if you don't feel like eating. The one cardinal rule for sick day rules is never, ever, ever omit your insulin. You might have to take more or less, but you don't want to omit it. You want to make sure that you're taking the right amount to cover what's ever going on. Now, how do you fix this? Well, the recommendation is, in order to fix this, you don't want to get your blood sugar going too down, because if you don't feel like eating, it's not fun to have a low blood sugar and forcing yourself to eat. But what you want to do is a couple of things. As a general rule, and sort of being ill, you want to make sure that you're replacing your fluids adequately. If you're taking cough syrup, make sure it's sugar-free, because most cough syrups have a lot of sugar in them. And all of the brands that are available in your pharmacy or druggist come in the sugar-free form as well. So make sure you have some of that on hand, all right? Because if your sugar's high and you're taking extra insulin to cover it, and then you're eating or drinking cough syrup that has a lot of sugar in it, you'll be working against yourself, right? So replacing fluids adequately. Be careful about drinking. Same thing for the cough syrup thing is the Pedialyte or Gatorade. Make sure that the fluids that you're using are relatively sugar-free or sugar-free, all right? So replacing fluids and managing your blood sugar. Cool. Now, that being said, what kind of sort of approach do we need to manage our blood sugar? Well, if you're 102 fever, feeling ill, and coughing, and sick as a dog, and your blood sugar is 16.1 or 290, you want to give yourself some extra insulin to cover that. You don't want to give yourself too much, but you also don't want to give yourself too little. All right? So, again, check with your doctor and your diabetes educator in terms of how to manage sick days. These are just general guidelines for you to use in case you're stuck without contact or access. So, you are going to take more insulin. This rule of thumb that I usually advise to patients that I'm working with is to take 10 to 20% of your total daily dose in the form of quick-acting insulin. Now, that means that if you're taking a total daily dose of 60 units, meaning fast and long-acting insulin, or just quick-acting insulin, what you want to do is you have room to give yourself between 6 to 12 units of insulin to cover that high. And if I were you, which is what I do for myself, I start off low and see how that works. And then when I'm sick, I check my blood sugar every 2 hours to see how I'm doing. If you're out of whack and things are slightly different than they usually are, and it's not your usual day, then you want to be checking your blood sugar more often. That's the key to staying on top of it. If you don't stay on top of this, by negligence, meaning you don't do what you're not staying on top of it, you could end up in DKA in the hospital. That being said, you could end up in DKA even if you're doing all of this stuff. So I don't want you to feel bad if you end up in the hospital for this. Sometimes the illness and the sort of whatever you're sick with just really grabs you by the back of the neck and throws you down for a loop. And it might be faster than you're able to sort of compensate for, and you might have to go to the hospital for IVs and for fluid replacement, all right? But in general, for most sort of mild illnesses, we can take care of ourselves and sort of manage to stay out of the hospital by following the rules. And as I said, you want to give yourself a little extra insulin. How much? About 10 to 20% of your total daily dose. Now, when I'm ill, because I'm on a pump, I have a little bit more flexibility than people who are taking multiple daily injections of Lantus and Novolog, Humalog, or Apidra. And what I do is, when I'm sick and I see these numbers coming up, I correct myself based on this or my usual insulin sensitivity factor. All right? And I then tell my pump, please give me plus 60%, because I'm a big guy, in the form of a temporary basal rate for 4 hours. What I'm telling my pump to do is I'm telling my pump that across all basal profiles, I'd like you to give me, and it looks like this. Say I wake up and I'm 16.1 or 296. I say, whoa, okay, I give myself some extra insulin. Then I say to my pump, dude, let's turn it up a little bit. I want, not 80, I want 60% more basal. And you can do it with a temp basal rate. And the pump starts giving me, instead of my usual this much basal rate, it gives me this much background basal rate to cover my B&L. And then I check again in 4 hours and see how things are going. The truth is I'm checking every 2 hours, but I let the basal rate go for 4 hours. All right? Cool. That's basically if you've got fever and you're feeling ill and you're coughing and stuff like that. What happens if you wake up in the morning or you wake up in the middle of the night, you had some bad food, you're vomiting? What's the first thing that you do? Check your blood sugar before you do anything else. You check your blood sugar and your blood sugar is 6.1 or 110. You say, well, my blood sugar's okay. It's probably something that I ate in my food. It's not affecting my blood sugar that much. I don't want to take extra insulin because I don't need to take any extra insulin, but I don't think I'm going to be eating for a lot of this day. So what I would say to you guys is to reduce your total daily dose or whatever you're taking across the board by 10 to 20% so that you're not backed up against the wall. Ride a little high for that day. I'm okay with that. It's not going to kill you. All right? Ride a little bit high so that you're not backed up against the wall and having to force yourself to eat when you don't feel like it. But like I said, do not omit your insulin. Do not say, or you might say to yourself, well, I'm not eating. I'm not going to take my shot this morning. Or I'm just going to turn my pump off. No. What you want to do is keep those going, but adjust the rate up or down based on your intelligent assessment of where you need to go with it for the rest of the day. Probably, like I said, a little bit better idea to ride a little bit high until you're out of the woods with the stomach upset and the vomiting. And then when you're done with that and you're feeling better, you can go back to what you were doing before. All right? For specifics on this, check with your diabetes educator and your diabetes doctor. All right? These are sort of the general operating principles and guidelines that you want to use in terms of dealing with this stuff when it comes to sick days. Okay. Now, what the heck is the glucagon thing? Nobody's talked to us about this from the beginning. Why are we talking about it now? Well, remember I said to you that sugar management has to do with the alpha and the beta cells? The alpha cells make glucagon. The beta cells make insulin. Between the alpha and the beta cells, these guys keep your blood sugar managed. How does glucagon work? Well, the glucagon works by, if you need sugar, your alpha cells send a message of sending out glucagon. So it's insulin and glucagon, both hormones. Don't confuse glucagon with sugar. It's not, it's a hormone. The alpha cells send some glucagon, they send it to the liver, and the liver is a place where you have stored sugar called glycogen. What glucagon does is it tells the liver to release its glycogen so that your blood sugar will come back up. Now, what's broken down here because we have diabetes is that there's no talking between the beta cells and the alpha cells. So our alpha cells work, and if you really had a bad low blood sugar or seizure or something like that and you were all by yourself, you'd probably eventually come out of it, but we wouldn't want to leave it to that, right? We want to treat this sort of quickly and effectively. So what glucagon is it's a hormone that comes in a little box. And there's a little vial of the glucagon tablet and a syringe with some liquid. That's what's in the Glucagon Kit. The Glucagon Kit is a red kit, and it should be stored in the fridge. Glucagon is used for seizures from low blood sugar. In my 52 years of living with diabetes, I've only had 2 low blood sugars or seizures that required glucagon. Was it fun? No. Would I like to do it again? No. But I would say, statistically speaking, those are pretty good numbers for such a long time. What I'm trying to say to you is that you'll need to have the glucagon at home. You'll need to carry it with you when you go on trips. It's not something that the person with diabetes can give themselves. It's something that the person who's with the person with diabetes will give to them. And what it is an injection. You inject it into the thigh or glutes. It's IM, intramuscular. It gets in there quickly. The needle's a little bit longer than you'd like, but thank God those of us who are having the low blood sugar, the seizure, don't see the size of the needle. The thing that's sort of scary is you, as the person giving that injection, are seeing the needle and you're going, oh my God, I promise that is not going to hurt them. It's only going to help them. And that whatever it takes for you to have the courage to inject it, do it. All right? Within 5 to 10 minutes after injecting this into the muscle, and even if you don't hit the muscle and you just do it in the arm or wherever, it'll still work in 5 to 10 minutes. All right? In 5 to 10 minutes, the person will be up. They'll be smiling, or maybe not smiling, but they'll be up. And then what you want to do is give them some carbs. Because remember what we said the glucagon does? The glucagon tells the liver to release its stored sugar. And once that shot's out, if you still have insulin working that causes you to seize or have a bad sugar, a bad low, you're going to need some more. So instead of having to do it again, which is not fun, you want to supplement some carbs after the 5 and 10 minutes, as soon as you're able to take glucose orally. And you say some crackers and some juice or milk, whatever, to keep those blood sugars up so you don't have to do this again. Now, you'll feel like you had a hangover after using this stuff. It's not fun, all right? But I can tell you this, if you use it and it works, you won't have had to have called the paramedics. Now, I can't stop you from calling the paramedics when you see your child seizing or having a bad low blood sugar, but I can tell you that this stuff really, honest to God, works. I was a camp counselor for a bunch of kids at a diabetes camp. One of the kids was seizing, and I was responsible and on watch and needed to give the injection. And I thought to myself, this thing will never work. How's this gonna, and what ended up happening, even though I've had it done to me and all of that stuff, I'm looking and I'm going, oh my God. I gave the shot as you're supposed to do. And this guy, Phil, came out of it, and he wasn't smiling, but he did come out of it in 5 to 10 minutes. And I was able to give him the crackers and juice to keep it going. And it was that. It was cool. Not fun. It doesn't look pretty. It's a little messy. But if you're a control freak, then having a child with diabetes is going to really be a great opportunity for a spiritual growth experience. You will be able to push yourself in the spiritual envelope of realizing that there are some things that you can control and there are some things that you can't control. And that takes us to the wrap-up of our sessions. And I will leave you with the Serenity Prayer as a place to go to in terms of being able to accept and let go, doing your best as often as possible, acceptance and letting go. You can't get it right all the time. If you got it right all the time, it would mean that you didn't have diabetes. So, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Whatever it is that you want to use, that's my favorite one, right? Just something to sort of put it out there and to come to the understanding and to come to the sort of spiritual place of knowing that as much as I'd like to control everything, there are some things that I don't have power over. And they just have a mind of their own, and I can work with that. I can be in that space of knowing that I can't fix everything or have everything go exactly as I want. I'll let it go, and I will move forward. And that's what we're talking about. That's what all of this material, and that's what Diabetes Chalk Talk has been about, is to help you get to a place where you can accept and let go while doing the best that you can as much as possible. The hardest thing for parents to sort of get about this disease is this aspect, I think, is the acceptance and letting go. And as we said at the beginning, which means that we're at the end if we're talking about the same stuff, is the powerlessness that one feels in not being able to fix their child. You might not be able to fix it, but you can give them a hug. You can tell them how courageous you think they are. You can tell them and their brothers and sisters about how courageous they are in terms of being around for this event and for doing the best that they can do. And you can give yourself credit for understanding and coming to that place inside yourselves that realize that you can't make it go away, but you can help them live with it on a daily basis and do what they want to do. Diabetes shouldn't stop you from doing anything that you want to do in this world, except those 3 things that I mentioned. But other than that, it's wide open. You never have to go to the hospital again. You will heal as well as anybody else, and you'll be able to have the life that you wanted to have. I can't take the pain away from you as a kid, and I can't take the pain away from you as a parent. That's your sort of thing to deal with in this life and to come to terms with. It's been a lot of work for me. I've had to go to counseling over the years to deal with some of my rage and anger and come to terms with sort of a softer place about managing this. Sometimes it pays to sort of take a step back in order to move forward. But armed with the information that we've given you today, together with a commitment to deal with the spiritual and emotional aspects, there's no reason for you not to have the life that you wanted to have. So, as they say in the movies, may the force be with you. All right, we're done. That's it for the presentation today on Diabetes Chalk Talk. We hope you found it informative and clarifying in a kind of way that you'll be able to take some of the information that you have and put it to effective use in the unfolding of your daily life of living with diabetes. Now, welcome to Type 1, and A Mile in My Shoes Productions have a lot more in store for you down the road in terms of presentations and workshops and learning series. For instance, over the next 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, we'll be doing a series of workshops on young adults and couples and living with diabetes, and how when one of you has diabetes and the other doesn't, how that impacts you and that kind of stuff. And we'll also be talking with families and getting some reads on what the impact of diabetes has been on family functioning and how family functioning has impacted diabetes management. So don't go away, stay tuned, and we'll be here with you, and may the force be with you.